Close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath, and let yourself settle into the soft, quiet stillness of the night. Imagine, if you will, a vast and peaceful landscape stretching out beneath a sky filled with countless silver stars. Running through the heart of this warm, golden desert is a wide, gentle river. This is the Nile, flowing silently through the dark, carrying with it the quiet stories of thousands of years. Long ago, before there were great monuments or bustling towns, the valley of the river Nile was a simple and serene place. Thousands of years before the pharaohs, small groups of people wandered through these lands. They found that along the edges of the river, where the warm blue water met the dry sand, the earth was rich and soft. Every year, with a steady and predictable rhythm, the river would slowly rise. It was not a sudden or frightening thing, but a gradual, quiet flooding that bathed the banks in rich black soil, softly nourishing the land before slowly receding back into its bed. The early people learned to live in complete harmony with this quiet river breath. They built small, comfortable homes out of mud and reed mats, resting in the shade of tall green palms. In the gentle mornings, they walked down to the water's edge to plant seeds of barley and wheat in the fertile silt. As the warm sun moved across the sky, they tended their gardens, watched the wild ducks glide lazily through the papyrus thickets, and listened to the low, soothing hum of water bugs over the river's surface. Life was unhurried, measured only by the movement of the sun, the gentle cycle of the seasons, and the steady, quiet pulse of the Nile. As generations passed, these small riverside villages began to speak to one another, trading earthenware pots, cool linen cloths, and small carved ornaments made from soft river stones. Eventually, the land came to be understood as two distinct, peaceful regions. There was Upper Egypt in the south, where the narrow river valley carved its way between grand, sun-warmed cliffs, and Lower Egypt in the north, where the river broadened into a wide green delta that opened softly to the sea. Around 5,000 years ago, a gentle bringing together of these two worlds took place. History remembers a ruler named Narmer, who wore both the tall white crown of the southern valley and the red crown of the northern delta. Under his steady hand, the two lands became one unified realm, bound together by the shared ribbon of the river. He established a quiet order known as Ma'at, a deeply felt sense of balance, harmony, and eternal peace. The people believed that as long as the river rose and fell, and as long as they lived with kindness and order, the universe would continue its soft, comforting turn. A central capital was founded at Memphis, a quiet city wrapped in gardens and groves of fruit trees. Here the early kings lived, looking out over the calm waters. They began to build sacred resting places for their spirits, believing that death was merely a peaceful transition into another room of the grand universe, where life continued in an endless, sunny meadow. This led into the era we now call the Old Kingdom, a long period of remarkable calm and creative contemplation. It was during these years, roughly 4,500 years ago, that the great stone pyramids were born. The idea began quietly with a wise architect named Imhotep. He envisioned a structure made not of mud bricks that would wear away with time, but of stacked limestone that would stand silently forever. He created the step pyramid for King Djoser at Saqqara, rising in smooth terraces toward the sky, like a gentle staircase toward the stars. Later came King Sneferu, a ruler who sought perfection in stone. He worked patiently, experimenting with angles until he perfected the smooth-sided pyramid, a shape designed to capture the soft rays of the rising sun. And then, upon the high, silent plateau of Giza, his descendants constructed the famous Great Pyramids. Imagine watching these giant monuments being built, not with noise or chaos, but with a patient, rhythmic grace. Thousands of stonecutters and farmers during the flood season worked together, moving giant blocks of gleaming white limestone on wooden sledges over wetted sand. Layer by layer, stone by stone, the pyramids rose into the clear blue sky, quiet testament to human patience and the search for eternal tranquility. When the white limestone casing was polished, the pyramids shone under the sun like solid hills of light, and at night they rested under the cool moonlight, casting long, peaceful shadows across the desert floor. Beside them sat the great Sphinx, a grand lion with a human head, lying down in total stillness, resting its stone paws upon the sand, guarding the quiet landscape for millennia. As the centuries drifted by, like leaves floating down a slow stream, the Old Kingdom gently gave way to the Middle Kingdom. This was a warm, introspective time. The art became softer, deeper, and more peaceful. Craftsmen carved delicate wooden models of daily life. Small boats with oarsmen gently paddling down the river, quiet bakeries and peaceful cattle pens, so that these comforts would accompany the soul into the forever. Writers wrote gentle poetry and stories that were sung softly in the evenings to the sound of small wooden harps. Irrigation canals were expanded, carrying the life-giving water further into the desert fields, turning wide stretches of amber sand into lush green gardens filled with sweet figs, grapes, and cooling lotus ponds. Time moved on, steady and slow. Night followed day, and the seasons turned like the constellation of the plow circling the northern star. In time, the period known as the New Kingdom dawned. This was an era of profound beauty and majestic serenity, where the pharaohs ruled over a vast, peaceful empire. Among these rulers was Queen Hatshepsut, a wise and gentle leader who favored trade and beauty over conflict. She sent great wooden ships down the Red Sea to the distant land of Punt. The vessels returned carrying fragrant myrrh trees with roots wrapped in soft woven baskets, sweet-smelling incense, polished ebony, and pure gold. She planted the myrrh trees in the terraced courtyards of her grand mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, where the warm desert breeze carried the scent of sweet resin through the tall white colonnades carved directly into the sheer stone cliff face. Later came Pharaoh Amenhotep III, whose reign was marked by unheard-of luxury and peaceful abundance. He built vast, cool palaces and lined the riverbanks with colossal statues and magnificent temples. At Karnak and Luxor, grand avenues of stone ram-headed sphinxes stretched between soaring pylons. Inside these temples, deep within the cool shadows, tall columns shaped like closed lotus buds held up ceilings painted like the night sky, dotted with golden stars. Oil lamps flickered quietly in the inner sanctuaries, casting a warm, flickering light on wall reliefs depicting offerings of water, flowers, and honey. Even as powerful pharaohs like Ramesses the Great laid down grand monuments and etched their names deeply into granite, the daily life of the ordinary people remained simple, soothing, and tied to the soil. In the soft light of dusk, a farming family would finish their day in the fields. They would wash their feet in the cool waters of the Nile, eat a simple supper of bread, sweet dates, and fresh fish, and rest on the cool roofs of their homes, watching the amber sky turn to indigo. They would point out the stars to their children, telling stories of how the sky goddess Nut stretched her star-dusted body across the world each evening to protect the earth while it rested. Eventually, as all long afternoons drift toward evening, the grand era of the pharaohs began its slow, gentle decline. Over many centuries, the power of the kingdom softened. New empires and distant cultures gently touched the shores of Egypt. Greeks and Romans came to the Nile Valley, not to erase what was there, but mesmerized by its ancient wisdom. They built temples in the traditional Egyptian style, painted hieroglyphs on cool temple walls, and spoke with reverence of the ancient gods. The famous city of Alexandria was built by the sea, home to a vast, quiet library where all the knowledge of the world rested on soft rolls of papyrus. Yet despite the changing times and the shifting of thrones, the true heart of Egypt never really changed. The kings and queens slowly faded into the pages of history, but the river kept flowing. The pyramids remained, standing tall and timeless on their desert plateau, wrapped in the cool night air. The Sphinx continued its eternal rest, gazing out toward the eastern horizon, waiting for a dawn that it had seen thousands of times before. The story of ancient Egypt is not one of sudden endings, but of an eternal, restful rhythm. It is the story of stone that holds the warmth of the afternoon sun, long into the chill of the night. It is the scent of dry papyrus, the soft rustle of palm fronds in the evening wind, and the quiet splash of a fish jumping in the moonlit river. Now the two lands are at peace. The sun has set completely beneath the western horizon, where the ancients believed the stars went to rest. The river Nile flows on, smooth, silent, and endless, carrying away all the hours of the past, leaving only stillness, tranquility, and soft dreams. Sleep peacefully now, wrapped in the timeless calm of this ancient world. As the stars watch over the quiet earth,